So, upon self-realization, also known as awakening, or in some circles, enlightenment, um, this is called dark night of the soul. And it's dark night of the soul because the soul is now beginning to deconstruct it. So let's talk about what the soul is. The soul is also known as your etheric body. And the etheric body, so your etheric body and the soul are the same. Your soul is your individualized aspect, okay? Sometimes people use soul to talk about the universal, but here we're talking about the individualized I am, okay? And that soul, that etheric part of you, has all the memories from all of your past lives. It has all of those impressions. And of course, those are things that you brought in with you, all of your impurities and things from all of the past lives. So this is why it's called Dark Night of the Soul, because it is purgation and dissolution of the soul. It is the removal of course, all of these impurities, but it's the removal of all thoughts/emotions that are connected to the I statement that keep you in patterns that hold you as a separate being. Because dark night of the soul, after awakening, self-realization, the soul is to disappear. The causal body, which is also known as your soul or higher self, it's midpoint. It's the midpoint of the 7 layers of consciousness or 7 layers of your subtle body. Causal body is to disintegrate because upon self-realization, you are no longer identifying as an individualized soul or being. You have now shattered that and you're entering into pure consciousness. No longer an individualized identity. So this is why Dark Night of the Soul is really, really dark. It's really dark because the soul actually suffers. And I'll read you something from the book. What else do I want to say? So we know that the higher the highs, the lower the lows. And this is very true here. So the higher your states of consciousness, the lower the lows of the purification process go. Because you're now getting into the soul level, burning away all of those impressions from past life that are still remaining in your etheric body. So it gets really dark. And I kind of think that's what's been going on. When so I'll just share, I think about a month ago or 6 weeks ago, I kind of crashed into unity consciousness. And ever since then, the same reoccurring patterns, and here's what it is, the same reoccurring patterns and emotions that were coming up in Dark Night of the Senses at the beginning of your journey keep continuing to come up, same. But in Dark Night of the Soul, for me, they're getting so deep and so dark and scary. Some of the things that have been coming up and some realizations that, let me pause this. I'm going to let my kitty cat in. Some of the, it's been so dark. And here, I will tell you this one thing. It's written in several books I've read on Dark Night of the Soul. That it is very difficult. I don't care if you're in Dark Night of the Mind or Dark Night of the Soul, but this dark night of the soul in particular, you will find that your friends and family, they really have no respect, isn't the right word, but they really cannot respect what it is you're going through. They can't understand it. They secretly think that you really need to be on meds. That's nothing should be. They can't understand it, and therefore they can't respect your journey. And so it's really tough being around other people. So, you know, if you're in dark night of the soul or finding yourself in a place where people just aren't getting it, don't talk to them about it, because you'll find that they tend to diminish your experiences. And I'm here to tell you, boy, that just doesn't help. But anyway, you need people that really get you. So find a teacher, somebody who is willing to talk about this stuff. Okay, lost my train of thought. Dark night of this. Oh, so so the things that were coming up in me, you think you don't have some of these things in you, because at the surface level of the personality or even deeper layers, they're not there. But some things are imprinted in your etheric. And I'll tell you, I have had prejudices of people towards people coming up, like rising up, like hatred. I don't even understand hatred. I couldn't understand it, but it was coming up. Terrible. It just felt awful. Hatred, prejudice. And if, 4 months ago, I would have said, no, none of this exists in me. I've never experienced this stuff, these feelings really in my life. Okay. But then they were coming up. So it's things coming up that you don't even realize that were there. So this hatred, prejudice, and what else? So much anger. Boy, I was born an angry child, so I know that's in my etheric body. But so much anger and frustration with life, not wanting to be here, and just angry, angry, angry. I've never felt so much anger in my whole life. I mean, it was, and to be honest, when you're in these states, honestly, you can't, I don't know what to do with them. So I just, I just let them burn themselves out. Like I tried my best to, open into the ocean of consciousness. Now, of course, that did help, but it was still there. So I just like focused in on it, the anger, the hatred, the sadness, and I became one with it. And I have to say, like, even it was so intense that I thought, I can't take this anymore, because it felt like every cell of my being was on fire with this anger and hatred. And it was, excuse me, it was consuming me. And it's really rough, but I became one with this, not resisting it, but totally being the anger and the hatred and whatever. And when you do that, when you can fully let go and become one with it without judgment or trying to push it away, then you know what happens? It burns itself out like a match. It's on fire, and then whoosh, it burns itself out, and you will have the aha and the awakening of that I statement that was triggering that layer of anger. So, for example, and this is what I mean, this is dark night of the soul. It's burning away the I statements that are keeping you as a separate being. So I remember sitting in the car and I was like, I can't feel the love. Where's the love? Where's, I was just so frustrated. I couldn't feel love for people. I was just like in hate mode. And I just sat there with it and let it consume me. And in an instant, that feeling of lack of love, I saw it. I saw that the ego, I, will never find the love. It was the I that was seeking love. And the I will never find love. Why is that? Because me, I am the love. The ego will never find the love. But it was the ego that was searching for the love. And the moment I became that energy as pure consciousness, experiencing this from the ego, consciousness saw that and burnt it out. Okay, does that make sense? Same thing happened with, oh my God, I'm gonna draw a blank. This anger and frustration, this is a deep-rooted saying in me that there is no support. I have no support. Like, hello, no one's talking to me, no one around here. I have no support, I have no support. And I'm pretty sure this is from several lives. And this just happened the other day. That anger and frustration, anger at God, you're not supporting me, became it. And in a moment of clarity, once again, I saw the I will never find the support it's looking for from God, from spirit, because it doesn't recognize those things as supportive tools. Okay? And it burnt it out. I could feel that burning away. So you see, they're like things, knives or arrows in your soul that you're being ripped out and burnt out of you through these emotions that are coming up. God, I'm going on and on about this much longer than I had intended. Okay, so I kind of want to read you. No, I do want to read you, not kind of want to read you. Some stuff from this book so that you can see really how dark some of this stuff can get. Now, this book is a little difficult for me to read, and I hate it when people read on YouTube, but I will do my best. So this is this is from Dark Night of the Soul, St. John of the Cross. And this is about Dark Night of the Soul, what I'm reading. The dark night is a certain inflowing of God into the soul, which cleanses it of its ignorances and imperfections, habitual patterns, natural and spiritual imperfections. Okay, so I'm just reiterating that Dark Night of the Soul is purification of the soul. The soul is not perfect. It is an impure instrument that has been so identified with the ego through lifetimes and sensations, okay, and sensation seeking senses, that it needs to be purified. Let's see here. It says, it may be asked, why does the soul call the divine light, which enlightens the soul and purges it of its ignorances, the dark night? Why does the soul call the dark night? And the response is that the divine wisdom is for two reasons, not night and darkness only, but pain and torment also to the soul. This is the first divine wisdom is so high that it transcends the capacity of the soul and therefore is, in that respect, darkness. So when divine light hits the soul has enough strength to deal with it, and it goes into, it feels darkness. It is the darkness. I hope I'm interpreting that correctly. And therefore, okay. The second reason is based on the meanness. You know, these are old, this is old language, but I think it really does mean meanness. The second reason is based on the meanness and impurity of the soul. And in that respect, the divine wisdom is painful to it, afflictive and dark also. So the divine light of contemplation, when it beats on the soul, not yet perfectly enlightened, causes spiritual darkness, because it not only surpasses its strength, but because it blinds it and deprives it of its natural perceptions. It blinds the soul of its natural perceptions. So even your spiritual eyes get darkened, okay? Let's see. I'm sorry, I shouldn't be doing this. In the first place, because the light and the wisdom is most pure, and because soul, is darkness pure, the soul must greatly suffer. So the soul, by reason of its impurity, suffers exceedingly when the divine light really shines upon it. And when the rays of this pure light strike upon the soul in order to expel its impurities, the soul perceives itself to be so unclean and miserable that it seems as if God himself is against him, and itself were set against God. So grievous and painful is this feeling. Excuse me. This relates so much to me. For it thinks now that God has abandoned it, that it was one of the heaviest afflictions of Job during his trial. So you think during the dark night of the soul that you've been kicked out of heaven, so to speak. It says here, in the second place, the pain of the soul comes from its natural moral and spiritual weakness. For when this divine contemplation strikes with a certain vehemence, in order to strengthen it and subdue it, see, it's trying to strengthen the soul, or the essence of this soul. It is then so pained in its weakness as almost to faint away, particularly at times when the divine contemplation strikes it with greater vehemence, for sense and spirit, as if under a heavy and gloomy burden, suffer and groan in agony so great that death itself would be desired. I hear ya. This was the experience of Job. The soul, under the burden of this oppression, feels itself so removed out of God's favor that it thinks, and so it is, that all things which consoled him formerly have utterly failed it, and there is no one left to pity it. Anyway, it goes on, and just is like so dreary and dark. I hope I didn't bum you out. But in this utter darkness, in this great suffering, it's a different kind of suffering. In the dark night of the senses or the mind, the suffering seems much more personal. It's like, oh, why me? It's all about me, and the I. And this is extremely painful, okay? In dark night of the soul, it's impersonal, because it's impersonal, personal. I don't know how to explain this, but you know it's not you. You know what you are as divine consciousness or pure consciousness, and yet all of these impurities are coming up. It's like you're watching a bad movie, and you can't shake it off. You want to shake it off, but what you have to do is bring it into yourself, and you don't want to. It's shocking from a pure being standpoint to see this. You don't understand it. It doesn't make sense to you and you don't want it, but you have to because it is you and you've created it and you realize you've created it, and that hurts even worse. Oh, anyway, okay. That's Dark Night of the Senses / Mind and Dark Night of the Soul. And I do wish this upon you because it is a great, great gift. Yeah, it is. So anyway.